Donald Trump is crashing out in the Oval Office right now after it has been learned that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin spoke for 90 minutes. And during that phone call, Vladimir Putin warned Donald Trump that if you and Netanyahu invade Iran again, there will be catastrophic consequences. Now, Donald Trump is in the Oval Office bashing NATO. He's confusing Iran with Ukraine and saying that the United States destroyed 159 ships of Ukraine. Let's go through what's happening piece by piece. Then we also heard from President Zelensky as well, and I'll share with you what he had to say. Powerful words indeed, where he goes after J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. So we learned through Russian media, not through the White House at all, but through Russian media, that there was a phone call today between Donald Trump and Putin this morning. It lasted 90 minutes. And the content of the phone call was provided in a readout to TASS, which is the Russian media. Putin told Trump in a phone call that he foresees extremely harmful consequences if the U.S. and Israel attack Iran again, calling any ground operation or invasion extremely dangerous and unacceptable. Now, this followed Donald Trump having a phone call with Barack Ravid at Axios, who's basically Donald Trump's stenographer and chief propagandist, other than, of course, Trump's in-house propagandist, Caroline Levitt. And Donald Trump told Barack Ravid earlier this morning during a 15-minute call that CENTCOM has a plan for a short resumption of strikes to include on Iranian infrastructure, with the goal of bringing Iran back to the negotiating table through another short-term opening of hostilities again. Donald Trump told Axios he will keep the naval blockade in place as well. As Ryan Grimm explains, Trump very publicly has said that he thought his initial strikes would last only a few days and the regime would fall, or he'd get negotiating leverage. He expressed extreme surprise when that didn't happen. Being wrong then is one thing. Doing the exact same thing again 2 months later and still thinking the same thing is so monumentally stupid, I can't even get my head around it. Iran has said if the U.S. attacks again, they're going to go bananas on us and our allies. Does Trump even know they promised that? And also, over the weekend, Donald Trump promised that the Iranian oil pipelines were going to explode today based on all of the pressure within the pipelines caused by the naval blockade. Meanwhile, Russia's envoy to the United States, one of their top ambassadors, a guy by the name of Kirill Dmitriev, he's just mocking the United States right now on his social media post. He writes, just in, President Putin and President Trump held constructive phone calls, also discussing potential U.S.-Russia economic and energy cooperation. So that's what Donald Trump was focused on while attacking NATO, while potentially resuming the open hostilities in Iran, while we now have our markets tanking as a result of Donald Trump's conduct. Donald Trump talking about economic cooperation with Putin, while Putin warning Donald Trump, don't you dare do any more ground invasions. The results will be catastrophic. And Trump's like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, yes, sir. We're going to just keep our naval blockade. The naval blockade is genius. Now going to the Oval Office. So Trump has that call with Putin, then all of Putin's attacks on Ukraine and Donald Trump and Putin plotting against Ukraine, that's on Donald Trump's mind. So when Trump holds this Oval Office press conference, where I think the purpose of it was to trot out the heroic astronauts and use them as props behind him, as Donald Trump does with like sports teams, in order to spread Donald Trump's propaganda and fascism, Donald Trump confuses Ukraine with Iran and says that he thinks that Ukraine has been militarily defeated and they had only 159 ships that are all at the bottom of the sea. Here, play this clip.
That's an interesting question. You know, coming from you, that's very interesting. Which war would end first? I don't know. Maybe they're on a similar timetable. I think Ukraine, militarily, they're defeated. Okay. You wouldn't know that by reading the fake news, but militarily, look, their Navy. So they had 159 ships. Every ship is right now underwater. Typically, that's pretty good. What do you think, Jared? I mean, it's going to be hard for them to make a naval comeback. Okay, now they have an Air Force. Every one of their planes has been shot down or has been decimated. They have missiles. About 82% are gone. And they have drones, and most of them are gone. Most of the factories are mostly gone.
Then Donald Trump says that the blockade, which is a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz already being essentially blockaded and closed. Trump says this was pure genius, he says, and now all we need Iran to do is cry uncle. That's Donald Trump's strategy, folks. He's doing noogies. Donald Trump's strategy is noogies. Cry uncle, cry uncle. We have the single dumbest human being and most dangerous human being in the Oval Office. Cry uncle. Here, play this clip.
Well, the blockade is genius, okay? The blockade has been 100% foolproof. It shows how good our Navy is, I can tell you that. Nobody's going to play games. We have the greatest military in the world, and I built much of it during my first term, and we've been building it since. And the greatest anywhere in the world, nobody even close. And you see that whether it's Venezuela, and they have a good military in Venezuela, but it was over in one day. It was actually over in about 48 minutes. Iran, the same thing. I mean, militarily, we've wiped them out. They have no military left. It's all the Navy's at the bottom of the sea. The Air Force is never going to fly again. We've got an amazing military. Now they have to cry uncle. That's all they have to do. Just say, we give up. We give up.
And then throughout this Oval Office press conference, this disaster, after Donald Trump spoke with Putin for 90 minutes and got that warning from Putin, Donald Trump starts saying, King Charles told me that he would have helped me in the Strait of Hormuz, but it was just that pesky NATO. So Trump attacks NATO as a paper tiger. And then once again, he confuses Iran with Ukraine, and he's like, NATO would not help us on Ukraine. We needed help there, and NATO didn't do anything. What are you talking about? Here, play this clip.
Well, you have to understand, my thinking is, I think, exactly correct, but I was very disappointed with the fact that when we called on them to give us a little hand, we didn't need it. I actually did it just to see whether or not they'd be there. When we called on NATO to give us a hand with Ukraine, and in particular, the most recent, we asked them to do certain things on Ukraine, and we also wanted them to do things with Iran. And on Ukraine, they're very much involved, but they didn't do things the way we would like to see it. It's been going on for a long time. And on Iran, they weren't there. As you know it better than anybody. They weren't there. The king is fantastic. We spent a lot of time together. We had a lot of talk. We talked about this also. And he loves his country, and he's a great king, and he's a great friend of mine. And I think if he were doing that, if that were up to him, he would have probably helped us with Iran. He would have followed the suggestions we made with respect to Ukraine, because, we have some disagreements on Ukraine.
Then Donald Trump is like, yeah, we had to go after James Comey, former FBI director, because when he said 86, that's a mob term. You ever watch the movies? 86 is the way mobsters say you got to kill people. So you brought a criminal case against the former FBI director for a social media post involving seashells on the beach that says 8647, whereas 86 means it's a restaurant term. Get rid of, push somebody out, not allow them in. Because you watch mob movies and they also use the term 86? That's where we are? Maybe just go back to the noogies, Donald. Here, play this clip.
Talking about how busy you were this morning. James Comey was in court. He self-surrendered. He's now been charged a second time, this time over a social media post with seashells that said 8647. Do you really think that he was endangering your life or threatening your life with that?
Well, if anybody knows anything about crime, they know 86. You know what 86? It's a mob term for kill him. You ever see the movies? 86 him. The mobster says to one of his wonderful associates, 86 him. That means kill him. It's, I think of it as a mob term. I don't know. People think of it as something having to do with disappearing, but the mob uses that term to say when they want to kill somebody, they say 86, the son of a gun. I'm trying to keep the language nice and clear. They don't use that term, son of a gun. They use another term. But that's a mob term for kill him. Yeah.
But do you really think you're right?
Then Donald Trump says that he believes that he could be an astronaut because of what great physical shape he is. And I saw somebody say, maybe 10 years ago when Trump would behave this way, to some people it would be endearing. But knowing that Donald Trump is actually a psychopath who truly believes that he could be an astronaut right now and that he's actually in good physical health makes this both depressing and psychotic. Here, play this clip.
Ask, but we're very proud of these people. They have unbelievable courage, unbelievable. A lot of other things too, by the way. To get in there, you have to be very smart. You have to do a lot of things physically good. So I would have had no trouble making it. I'm physically very, very good. Maybe a little bit of a problem. I don't know. I'm sure we'll have to try it sometime. Is a president allowed to go up in one of these missions?
We can get working on that, Mr.
We'd have no problem, right?
We'll launch more rockets. The opportunity.
We'll have to try it.
And then Donald Trump turns to Jared Isaacman, who's got really big ears, just objectively. And when Donald Trump couldn't hear the question that was being asked to Trump, Trump turns to Isaacman, who's the head of NATO, who's the head of NASA. And Donald Trump's like, look at those ears. Are you able to hear that question with those big ears of yours? Yes, Donald Trump humiliates our country every single day. Here, play this clip.
Are you considering relocating NASA's headquarters out of D.C.? States like Florida, Texas, and Ohio have expressed interest.
You're going to have to say it differently.
Sorry, are you considering relocating NASA's headquarters out of D.C. once the lease is up? States like Texas, Ohio, and Florida.
Well, the best man to tell you that is the man standing right over here. You heard that question with those beautiful ears of yours? He's got great hearing, he's got super hearing.
Trick of the trade, sir.
What's the answer to that?
Let me tell you, if there's a surefire way to wake up feeling fresh after drinks with friends, it's with pre-alcohol. Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Look, I won't lie, I was a bit on the fence about pre-alcohol initially, but then while hanging out with some friends at my local bar, I gave it a shot, and believe me, it's the real deal. March is a marathon of social events. From the slopes to the bracket watch parties to Guinness on St. Patrick's Day, pre-alcohol is the tool you need to fully enjoy the end of winter. Go to zbiotics.com/Meidas to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Meidas at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/Meidas and use the code Meidas at checkout for 15% off.
And Donald Trump didn't realize that the Supreme Court even made a ruling on the Voting Rights Act until a reporter asked him a question. Here, play this clip.
Thank you, Mr. President. In light of today's Supreme Court ruling on the Voting Rights Act, do you want Republican states in the South to look at redrawing congressional districts before
I
the
don't know, you have
midterms?
to tell me, when did the ruling come out? I've been with the astronauts. I've been with contractors because we're trying to get the ballroom built ahead of schedule. It's right on schedule. It's ahead of schedule now. I want to keep it that way.
Came out today,
And I was also with commissioning some people, but one of, David Warrington's son. I don't know, David. Everybody knows David. He's got this incredible son. So he was just sworn in. So we had other things. Tell me about what happened.
Well, some think that the ruling could create more Republican-held congressional seats in the South.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's the kind of ruling I like.
Would you want them to
When did that happen?
Well, the Supreme Court ruled on it this morning.
Really? Is that right? You tell me about the ruling.
Well, I have a question.
This is
Mr.
CNN
President.
fake news.
And then Donald Trump says it's because people like James Comey that he feels that his life is threatened all the time. That's what a snowflake this guy is. Here, play this clip.
But do you really think your life was in danger? 'Cause that's the
Probably. I don't know. Based on what I'm seeing out there, the people like Comey have created tremendous danger, I think, for politicians and others. Comey is a dirty cop. He's a very dirty cop. He cheated on the elections. He tried to help Hillary Clinton, as you know. He dismissed a lot of things that he should have proceeded with. I wasn't involved, but he should have proceeded with. No, he's a dirty cop. He's a crooked man. Yeah.
Mr. President, you just
So we're hearing from President Zelensky as well. Here's what Zelensky had to say regarding J.D. Vance. Let's hear that interview from Zelensky from this morning. Let's play it.
US support to Ukraine dropped by 99% in 2025. And Vice President J.D. Vance recently said that he was most proud of ending military aid to your country. Do you still see the United States as a reliable ally in this war?
I think that our union between the United States and Ukraine is the quickest way how to make the strongest forces in the world. We have to strengthen each other, not to find a way how to stop support or not to stop support. So big investment from the United States and Europeans at the very beginning of the war helped us technologically increase and be unique now, one of the strongest armies, technologically strongest armies in the world. So take this experience. I'm not agree with the vice president. We are open and we are not enemies. Russia is enemies and they're close and they will be always enemies with the United States. Cold war, hot war, God bless, no war, but they're not allies. And if Vice President is proud that he's not helping us, it means that he is helping Russians. And I'm not sure that it's strengthening. I'm not sure that it's strengthening the United States. No. To have Russians as friends, I'm not sure that it's strong positions.
And then we got the latest polling data out. You know, Reuters Ipsos has Donald Trump's approval at 34%. AP Norc has Trump's approval at 33%. When you go to like standard of living, that Reuters poll has Trump's approval at like 20%. When you go to the economy and that AP Norc, Trump's approval is 30%. I mean, way worse than Biden, way worse than Jimmy Carter, worse than Nixon at the time of Nixon's resignation. Watch how Harry Enton breaks down some of the latest numbers as it relates to the public's view of Donald Trump on inflation, where Donald Trump promised on day one he would solve inflation. He would make prices less, he said. Okay, but here, play this clip.
Yeah, it is the number one issue, the number one issue. It's the number one financial issue. It's the number one issue folks saying it's facing their families right now. And Donald John Trump is in the worst position he has ever been on inflation. And more than that, these are the worst numbers I've ever seen for any president. I mean, just look at this. Look at this. According to Ipsos, look at this net approval rating on inflation. We got the latest poll out. He's 49 points underwater. That means that 49% more of the public disapprove than approve of the job he's doing. I went back. You remember Joe Biden? Inflation absolutely crushed his presidency. But at his worst, according to Ipsos, he was just 43 points underwater. So Trump is lower now on inflation than Joe Biden ever was, according to Ipsos. And I will note that the inflation rate right now is only about a third as it was back in June of 2022. Yet Trump's numbers are significantly worse than Biden's ever were.
Even though inflation was like at 9% this month, they still think Trump is doing a worse job on it than Biden ever was.
Correct.
That is staggering. Okay, so when you think of presidents and inflation, the one that comes to mind is Jimmy Carter. That was when inflation was really stratospheric. So how does Trump compare to Carter on those numbers?
Yeah, these are really stunning numbers right here. But what about James Earl Carter, right? You think of inflation, as Johnny B was talking about. You think about inflation seeking presidencies. You think of Jimmy Carter. But just look here. Okay, if we look right now we're talking about net approvals on inflation, this number should actually be 46%, minus 46. And if you look at this though, even if I raise it a little bit and I correct my error right here live on air, we're talking about minus 46 points versus minus 49 points. Donald Trump is in worse position on inflation than Jimmy Carter was when, of course, Carter then got blown out by Ronald Reagan back in 1980.
So where do Americans think this is headed in terms of the cost of living?
Yeah, okay, so you see these bad numbers and take a look here. Look at this. On cost of living, country is on the wrong track or right track. Look at this. Among independents, 75%. 75% say the wrong track, just 9% say the right track. Look among Republicans. The plurality of Republicans say that the country is on the wrong track when it comes to the cost of living versus just 39%, 45 versus 39. Donald Trump has lost every single part of this electorate. And when you take his name out of the equation, you see even the plurality of Republicans say that the country is.
There you have it, everybody. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. We're so close to 7 million. You may think you're subscribed, but you may not actually be subscribed. So double check and let's get to 7 million. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.